Welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio here this morning. For those in the live stream, getting started a touch early. Ole Miss football preseason practice beginning this morning, so needed to alter the schedule a little bit for that. Coverage coming kind of all day long at rebelgrove.com for football. We've got a media availability with Lane Kiffin and what I assume are a good number of players this afternoon. So stay locked in, rebelgrove.com for that and more. Talk a little football today. The MLB trade deadline has come and gone. Juan Soto was dealt to the San Diego Padres yesterday. And then last night, Vin Scully passes away, probably the preeminent voice of baseball in, any of our lifetimes and a lot of lifetimes for other people as well. So those topics and more coming up on today's show. Show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. To download the Exxon mobile app, take advantage of that because they'll give you $10 at the pump you're filling up. Just take a picture of the QR code, download it, 1,000 bonus points, $10 right there for you at the Oxford Exxon, and let them handle dinner for you tonight. It's kind of hot, it's kind of muggy, puts you in a little bit of a bad mood, so let them handle it. Wet ribs, dry ribs, call ahead, and they will have it wrapped up and ready to go for you there at the Oxford Exxon and a lot of other Blue Sky locations around Mississippi. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes. In business hours, it's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Speaking of today, out at Larry Clark Chevrolet. Clark Ford and Larry Clark Chevrolet are both hosting the Ole Miss National Championship Trophy. It'll be there from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you want to take your picture with it, see it, pet it, whatever the case may be. It's a trophy, so you'll get to see it. It's there from 11 to 2 at Larry Clark Chevrolet in Amory. Guests join on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Great place to grab a burger, a po' boy, an appetizer, great beer selection, full bar, and more there at Rafters on the Square in Oxford, Rafters in New Albany. And then starting today, again, Rafters on the Water out at Sardis. It's still summertime. It's August the 3rd. It's very hot, muggy.
You say that with some negative connotation.
There's
something kind of.
I push back against that. I've had this argument with multiple people over the past 24 hours, and I will not budge. It's not fall just because the school starts.
Like I say, a little bass in your voice there as we have a conversation about seasons.
Just because Oxford explodes into a battle about dress codes, just because these things happen,
I heard that got a little carried away yesterday.
Oh, it's going. It's real.
Okay.
I'm so glad my girls are out. Oh, God. Oh, you don't want to get me started. I mean, I'm trying to decide. Is it worth it? The answer is for me, yes. 'Cause I don't go anywhere. I don't talk to anybody. I don't see anybody. I can do anything I want now. The same people who went mask nuts a year ago and were proven to be completely wrong are now.
I'm waiting on you to get there.
Those same people are creating a problem and doing the whole school. You're punishing an entire school system over a handful of people who won't follow basic common sense as it pertains to what you wear to school. And instead of saying, hey, look, you, person X, you can't wear that to school. You know it. We know it. Don't do it. Hey, let's put in these codes that they've had for years and never really enforced. And this year, we're suddenly going to enforce them all. It is the equivalent of putting speed limits of like 25 everywhere and yanking people over for going 26. It creates chaos where chaos is completely unnecessary. And for the record, the only kid I have left in the school system is a boy who wears dry fit T-shirts and basically gym shorts to school every day, and no one says a word to the boys. It's essentially, it's not discriminatory, but the only people that it affects are young girls.
No, it is absolutely isolating girls. I mean, there's no doubt about
It affects
that.
nothing
I mean, I have
but
a
girls.
kindergarten. We're not getting dress coded, so it's all.
But what you have is these girls who spent the summer preparing for what they're going to wear to school. Girls are very conscious of their bodies and what they wear to school and how they look and fashion and stuff. And so they wear like the Lululemon skirts.
Tennis skirts, essentially.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are now forbidden. And so when one says, but why? Well, we can see their thigh. You can see a boy's thigh when he sits down wearing a pair of shorts. What difference does it make?
It's fair.
It's more than fair. It's more than fair. But it's the same people that a year ago when you tried to say, the masks don't work, there's documentation that the masks don't work. And their answer was essentially, look, just shut up and do it. And so now it's, instead of letting the school year get started and focused on, learning, there's a fight about what people wear. So I'm glad. Some days I'm not very happy that my kids are gone.
The ages they are.
And then there are days when I look at it and go, man, because it would be, if my girls were in high school, this would be.
It'd be a topic right now, wouldn't it?
It would be the topic.
Are they, and we're moving on, I swear to God, but are they overemphasizing early to set a tone and then going to back off?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean,
if so, then I have even more criticism. Because now you're just creating, you're doing precisely what I just said. Mm-hmm. Instead of singling out the people who are obviously committing
real code violations.
Yeah. I mean, like if your bare stomach is hanging out and your ass is hanging out the bottom of your shorts, but you have a problem.
Sure.
Right? And I'm assuming that that's happened. And so rather than bringing those people in and going, come on. We have common sense. But you and I've talked about this. I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I'll say it. Common sense has been sort of dismissed from our society. Common sense is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little too pragmatic.
It ties into everything we've been talking about for a long time. It ties into confirmation bias. It ties into people looking for people to agree with them versus whatever the middle truth is or whatnot. It comes into to do that. We as a society, not everybody. I get that probably most people we're talking to are completely sane because you're hanging out with us this morning. But you're looking for one specific tunnel in everything you do, and if you don't expand to look for multiple tunnels and to grow, to learn, to actually evolve as humans. I mean, not to get overly deep with it. You get stuck into this, where you have these one-track things, and there's no nuance, there's no sidestep, there's no nothing. It's just here. Because
here's the thing: if the dress code is really that big of a deal, there's a simple solution.
Uniforms.
Yeah, sure. Just go to uniforms. Now, when you have uniforms, you can't have Jersey Day, and you can't have Halloween Day because now you're opening it back up. You have uniforms. Regimented uniforms.
It's also a cost issue. Uniforms.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you have a school system. You could raise the money and provide the uniforms. You could have a scholarship situation for uniforms. You can do. You could do. The point is if this were truly a crisis, there's a solution.
You say that like on Facebook, it's coming off like a crisis currently. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, have you read Facebook?
No. See, I haven't actually. I've only heard. I have not.
I got home from Tupelo and was like, "Hey, look at this! Look at this! Look at this!" And I mean, I see people who I know, people who are sane. I won't single them out on this podcast, never. But people who I know, who I deal with, who are sane people, are very upset about this. It's like, why did you wait until now? Like back in June, go, hey, just so you know, FYI, we're going to enforce this letter of the law. And then you see pictures of girls who got sent home or had to come. Nothing's exposed, and they're like 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, If little Ronnie is so obsessed with staring at girls in the 5th grade, well, then maybe we need to talk to Ronnie. Hey, dude, chill out. This isn't the place. But boys are going to look at girls, and that's not a bad thing. Now, if they are grabbing the girls, that's a bad thing. If they're harassing the girls, it's a bad thing. But if
or even looking beyond a normal length.
Yeah, but
there is a difference in me eye contacting you and.
But I got to tell you, if little Johnny is checking out little Jenny's legs, it doesn't really matter whether they're clothed or not. He's staring at her. It just happens. It's all part of the natural process of things. Did you ever look at girls when you were in school?
Time to, yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
Is everything?
I think I'm all right.
Is everything all right?
I feel like I'm a fairly productive member of society. Yeah.
Sometimes I just think there's a common sense solution to most things. But we don't do common sense. We have an energy/climate crisis in our country right now that there is a common sense solution to. But the common sense solution, either way, offends both sides. So we wait, and whoever's in power steers the thing. There's a middle ground. Makes all the sense in the world. Put a lot of smart people on developing alternate sources of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Work on the grid so that when we get to that, we have the grid to support it.
Sure.
And while we're waiting to do that, continue to produce our own fuel so that we're not dependent on foreign entities. That's a solution. It's common sense. But one side wants to go, there is no climate crisis. And the other side says the only way we can save the planet by 2032 is doing this. Well, both of those things are wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, do I make sense?
Yeah. Do everything you can to improve it and realize that if we really only have 9 years left, we're screwed anyway.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if we're down to the final 10 years and we know that, but then let's announce that because I'm breaking out the tequila.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no point. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Got a couple minutes left. Didn't know we were doing climate change dress codes to open today's show. Say, welcome to Ole Miss football practice. Only things you get with the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
Well, we live in Oxford,
no,
and this is the big topic in Oxford today. That and Highway 30 is the exit ramp is still not open off 7.
Oh,
I know. Have you noticed?
See, I don't go that. I'm the other direction, so I didn't
that's
think
right.
about
You
that.
don't do that anymore. Yeah,
no, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can start a segment this
we're getting a Waffle House, baby.
Chamber of Commerce Hour with the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Welcome in to today's show. Today's guest, Robin Tannehill, discussing.
Oh shoot,
we got a couple minutes. I want to talk about Vin Scully in a minute, but we've only got a couple minutes before the break. Okay. What are we getting out of Lane? What's Lane's? What is he walking in that because he always does. He always has his thing he wants to talk about. What's he want to talk about today?
Well, we're getting local media Lane Kiffin today, so we're getting a much quieter, almost depressed Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, sure.
Gonna be hard to hear him. I don't know. It's a good question. Program has a lot of energy, a lot of high expectations. I won't be surprised if part of his very short keynote address is about building culture. Taped the Troy Brown show yesterday, taped the Mason Brooks show yesterday. They both acknowledge that, hey, there's work to be done in that regard. They think it'll get done, and I do too, for what it's worth. But, I think that's part of it for camp, that there's more than X's and O's. I think he said that already. I think he'll repeat that again, is my guess. I think he will downplay the urgency of the whole quarterback competition. And, I suspect he'll be super laid back. Will Juice be at practice? You can tell I'm not quite in as serious a mood as
he
others.
Will be on the premises. I don't know if he will be on one of the fields.
Might be a little hot. for a Labrador Retriever at 11 o'clock in the
You're
morning.
going to need some water and some stuff.
Yeah, it's a little warm.
But no, I mean, what else you got to do? I mean, hell, you say he's going to get practice. I mean,
it's his program.
I mean, whatever. I mean, what else is he doing? Sure. Hang out.
How many times does a mascot go to practice? Like, does Uga, the whatever, go to practice? Probably not, right?
No. Well, Uga doesn't even live in Athens. They have to, they drive him in every game.
Well, Arkansas doesn't bring Tusk to practice. Does Mississippi State take Bully, the actual Bulldog, to practice? Probably not. I mean, Ole Miss is charting new territory here.
You think they could actually get a lab as a mascot at this point if they push for it? Or you think it's pseudo becoming that anyway?
I mean, look, if you said take the money line on does Juice run out with the team on September the 3rd, I'm taking the money line that he does.
Well, I mean, I have a decent source, so that's a decent possibility.
So show me the schools where the animal runs out with the team.
You don't think Ralphie's at practice today in Boulder?
Well, my point is...
You don't think he's just hanging out on the middle of the field?
No, but my point is Ralphie is the mascot, right?
He is the mascot.
He is the mascot. So, yes. I mean, like, when Traveler runs out, Traveler is the mascot. So if my point is that I don't know of a school that runs out animals that aren't the mascot. Like, you don't go to a game at Michigan State, I'm guessing, and watch them run out a porcupine or something, right? I mean, that's not what they do. Colorado doesn't run out like a collie. They run out Ralphie.
Collies are probably trademarked and copyrighted.
There you go.
I bet nobody else can do that.
Well, A&M takes a collie to the game because the collie is the mascot. So if you're taking an animal to the game, I think it's fair to say there's a decent chance that's the mascot. Lane Kiffin solved a lot of problems for Ole Miss.
Solving the mascot problem now, too. It is an incredibly handsome dog. Also, when they take some of the pictures of him and I look at his face, he goes, he has no idea what's going on right now. He has no idea what's going on around him right now for this.
Well, I was at one of the little recruit things, and they brought, I guess it was, he wasn't too terribly old, and they brought him out because, nature called. He needed to urinate. And I looked at him, and I thought, you have no idea what's going on right now, do you, champ?
Just hanging out.
Mean, you've got a Twitter account. You're breaking news. You're being used to reveal to people that, hey, we've got a new NIL deal coming up with the big company that's going to include a camouflage helmet for at least one game. You don't realize that all this stuff's happening, do you, champ? You
feel good about that one, too.
You just want a treat.
Rub my ears.
Yeah.
Hand me a treat.
Scratch my ears.
Sure, we'll walk around.
Hey, take me out. Let me find a good bush. Looking for the right bush.
He doesn't really lay in his bed much either. It doesn't look like in Lane's office. Looks like he's just kind of on the floor up against that wall a lot. Like
Labrador Retrievers, I'm pretty familiar with them. They find spots to lay.
And that is their spot.
They don't really go get on their bed until it's time to take a deep rest.
Well, you have one that's by the front door quite often.
Yeah, and one lays by the front door. One lays in front of the cabinets in the kitchen because you always have to tell him to move. And he looks at us like, I'm here. Why don't you move the damn pot someplace else? You're making me get up so that you can cook something that I don't get to eat.
It's fair. So, yes, long story short, I do believe that there will be – I don't know that we will see Juice at any point in today's proceedings, but I expect him to be on the premises if he had a GPS on him.
Okay, I'll say we see him.
He dropped the kid off at school this morning.
Yeah.
Coming to whatever.
I'll say we see him.
You think we're going to see him?
Yeah.
Okay. Podcast. This podcast of all podcasts brought to you by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They're locally in the Oxford area, and they offer medicine for your prescriptions the same day each month and take care of you. One trip to the pharmacy, one delivery, and you have everything you need when you need it with G&M. And also, if you want to switch your medications over, they handle that as well. One call, and everything else gets taken care of for you. So, again, that is G&M right there on South Lamar in Oxford, 662-236-2222.
At some point today or tonight, I will have up what he said, what he meant. That's brought to you by myperfectfranchise.net. Are you looking to diversify? You're looking to leave the corporate rat race to gain control of your income and schedule? MyPerfectFranchise.net offers the ability to create income and wealth. Let Andy Ludecky guide you through a comprehensive franchise evaluation. He has tons of franchise and business ownership experience to lean on. If you hate your job, your boss, your pay, if you feel stuck, get in touch with Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Solutions RX. It's a probiotic multivitamin supplement company created by Ole Miss pharmacy alum Chris Cornelison. Solutions RX is pharmaceutical grade, manufactured here inside the U.S. under the highest standards, based out of Iuka, Mississippi. If you take diabetes, high blood pressure, or cholesterol medications, they typically cause side effects like muscle pain, brain fog, energy loss due to depletion of minerals and vitamins in the body. Chris formulated a product called Prescription Support to put those vitamins back into your body to help with those side effects, helping you stay more compliant, taking your medications, helping you stay healthier over the long term. It's solutionsrx.com, promo code OEP at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Holcomb Portable Buildings, 7991 Highway 7 South in Holcomb, Mississippi is the place to go. If you want your carport, ATV or storage shed, barn, hunting cabin, or other buildings custom built for you, they'll accommodate you. You pick the color, the style, the windows, the doors. Holcomb Portable Buildings makes it happen. In-house financing is available. Free delivery and setup within 75 miles of Holcomb. For more information, call 662-226-2233 or go to holcombbuildings.com. You can also find them on Facebook or Instagram at Holcomb Portable Buildings. We're brought to you by Dead Soxy. Go to deadsoxy.com. Best socks you'll ever put on your feet. Enter the promo code Rebel Grove. Get 25% off your entire order at Dead Soxy. You get ready for the football season. Speaking of getting ready for the football season, you're going to be in the Grove, tailgating and whatnot. Use that Game Changer patch. It's the only 2-patch system available in the market to stop hangovers before they start. The warm-up patch used before or while you drink. Overtime patch used after you've been drinking to recover while you sleep. The all-natural ingredients will keep you in the game. Ready for your next play. Go to GameChangerPatch.com. Promo code RebelGrove20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase.
Podcast also brought to you by Johnson Hill Creamery, JohnsonHillCreamery.com. Go to their Facebook page, go to their Instagram page. Call them on Facebook. Go to their Instagram page at Johnson Hill Creamery. Plenty of great videos and pictures they make every single day, and they call their cheese locally and in-house. They're off on White Oak Lane, and it's almost football season, almost tailgating season. Because of that, it is time to get your catering ready for those home games. They've got 3 different great packages, one that feeds 10, 120, and 140. Got everything from charcuterie trays, sandwich trays in those, to some of the great condiments, pepper jellies, feta dip, and much more. So get that ready. 419-9201. So, Sunday Open, Vin Scully passing away last night, age of 94. Called Dodgers baseball for a mind-boggling. I had my mic muted and none of that got read, so it's okay. We'll back up and do that. Anyway.
Sorry.
I mean, it was my own fault. I did it a second ago to check something. So just, I guess, quickly there. Johnson Hill Creamery, JohnsonHillCreamery.com. Again, tailgating packages, I'll make it up to you, are available. 3 different ones. They feed 10, 20, and 40. And you can go ahead and get that started now. So don't wait. Go ahead and get that going. That is, again, 662-419-9201. Our cheese at JohnsonHillCreamery.com is never too early to go ahead and get your catering done for the Grove this season. So anyway, okay, Vin Scully, 94 years old, dying as he had called Dodgers baseball 67 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about him forever. He was obviously the announcing voice and for love of the game, as we've made jokes and references over the course of the last decade or so. You know, it's one of our shticks. But what struck me, and I mean, I guess in some ways it's kind of like with Bill Russell. Everybody has a story. Everybody talks about the time he went out of his way and how as good of an announcer was, better man, better ambassador for the game, for Los Angeles, for, I mean, hell, Brooklyn back in the day, everything involved with him. But what got me is just the number of stories and experiences and memories that go when somebody like that dies, that you hope there are tapes and recordings and books and everything to chronicle his life and his experiences and things he's seen. You're talking about a guy who covered basically all of Jackie Robinson's career for the most part. somebody who's done all-star games and World Series. He did Dwight Clark's the catch in the 49ers playoff game. I mean, you're talking
Hank
about
Aaron's,
Kirk Gibson's 17th home run.
Yeah.
I mean, all these different things to where it was his voice and his cadence and his understanding of broadcasting, but it was better than anyone ever. It's what I talked to Ben Ingram about just a few weeks ago on the other podcast, was letting a game breathe and how do you incorporate stories and how you do that thing in baseball that you can do in no other sport because of the dead air and the time that's available for that and what he was able to bring to the sport. And they're historians. They're wealths of knowledge in such different ways that was maybe that's saddest because a human being lost their life, but that was the stark thing is just when those people pass away, the things that are lost with them, and it's a loss to the game and frankly the fabric of our culture in a way.
It hit me last night. I'd gotten back from Tupelo. Carson had soccer practice, and we got back, and I was trying to decide, trivial stuff like, is it too late to eat dinner? I had not eaten. I was hungry, all that stuff. And I was on Twitter just for a second, and someone referenced Vin Scully in the past tense, and I kind of panicked. Isn't that funny? 94-year-old man, and I kind of panicked. And I'm like, what's this? Surely that's just Twitter's not home.
Just an error, yeah.
Twitter's not the greatest, place for grammar. A lot of mistakes at twitter.com. And I start looking, and then I finally did the search. And there it was, and man, I started crying. I don't know why it hit me like that, but it did. Like, I know we do like you said, the shtick on For Love of the Game, but I genuinely love the movie.
Yeah, no.
But what I love about the movie is him. He ties it together. And as a young person, you didn't get to, I grew up at a time when you didn't get to hear a lot of baseball games. I grew up in a place where we didn't get there was no AM radio in Ruston, Louisiana, where you could hear a team. Sometimes late at night you could get WWL out of New Orleans.
Sure, yeah.
Really late at night, you might be able to get WGN 720. Maybe. So I heard like the NBC game of the week and Monday Night Baseball. It's like Howard Cosell and Vin Scully and people like that. Those Keith Jackson, those were the voices of, if you were a sports fan, and I was, those were the voices that you grew up with. And then when I got to those years, man, when I was covering Auburn, and I would make that godforsaken drive from Mobile to Auburn over and over and over, I had satellite radio where I could listen to games. And you'd listen to like Bob Uecker call a Brewers game, Vin Scully call a Dodgers game. And you didn't care who won the Dodgers-Mets game.
Mm-mm.
But you'd listen for 3 hours and 20 minutes because it was Vin Scully, and you always knew the count.
Oh.
Always. Like, one of the things, like, some guys are good at telling stories on the radio, but you'll be like, hey, dude, what just happened? Like, you'll hear the bat hit the ball and still not know what happened. Vin Scully was that guy who could tell this story about something that happened 20 some odd years ago. It was interesting. You were completely enthralled in the story, and yet you knew
it was
that
1-2
you knew that Pedro Guerrero just fouled off the 1-2 pitch off to the left side, and a man in a yellow shirt had caught it.
Because it was the perfect cadence of there and back, and back.
It would come back, and then you knew Guerrero had struck out, and that the next hitter was coming to the plate, and that he was hitting 217, but that he was on a hot streak in the last 3 weeks. He was hitting 352 in the month of June, and then back into the story.
Yeah, Corey Seager 2 for 3 single and home run today, and Mickey Mantle in 1956, and
that was a gift. And you didn't even though he called the Dodgers, and you knew he was the voice of the Dodgers, and you knew that he was probably cheering for the Dodgers, You could listen to a Dodgers Cubs broadcast as a Cubs fan and not even get slightly irritated.
And some of that is he was perfect, and it's what enough people don't learn in broadcasting. Again, you're listening to my broadcasting experience, so I know nothing about calling a game. But, and I talked to Ben about this too, you watch a lot of his famous calls, and there's maybe a little bit of a slight cadence change or an up-tempo, but he never screams. He never does I'm going to lose my mind right here. There's an evenness to it.
Yeah.
And he was perfect at providing the ambient noise, the sounds, to let the moment play out and marinate as it needed to. Because I got down a kind of a YouTube hole after I had seen that he had passed away. And his last call at Dodger Stadium was a Charlie Culberson walk-off home run to clinch the NL West in 2016. I guess maybe regular season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I mean, so what he's doing, and it is textbook broadcasting, even in his final inning, is the Dodgers, I guess, have a half game or 1 game lead in the NL West. So he's following his game in the 10th, and the Dodgers are the home team. They're trying to walk off whoever they were playing. I don't remember. And then he's following the Padres and the Giants at the same time, and they're in the 9th. So he's literally calling his game while watching TV, and he's going, and Brandon Belled up now 2-1, and he's doing the Giants thing at the same time, and he's mixed them in together. And then Culberson hits the home run, and his tempo never changes. It's Charlie Culberson down the left field line. It's out of here, and your LA Dodgers are the NL West champions. They've done it on their own merit, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes silent for 20 seconds, lets it all kind of play out, and then comes back, gives one look. Now we no longer care about the Padres and the Giants. Going to leave you there, and then he kind of gives like the setup on what's next, and that's the call, and that's it. There's not this chip carry. Oh my God, line drive to left.
Yeah, none of that. Belted.
No.
Or Kemosabe or whatever the guy did at the College World Series in the Super Regionals.
The Texas Tech guy.
Yeah, where you're like, wait, slow down, hold up.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for him to go, he cured cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so emotional. It was like, calm down. But I think with Scully, it was also because of the way he did his job. Like I've read a lot about the way that he prepared for broadcast. He would go and in part because everyone in every organization had such respect for him, but he would sit, like, let's just say it's a Cubs-Dodgers game, right? He would sit down with Dave Roberts before the game, obviously, but he also sat down with Joe Madden, knew the people, knew the storylines.
And they gave him that time.
They gave him that time. He knew what was going on, and people trusted him, but he never made himself bigger than the game, because I think he knew, he knew what greatness looked like, right? I mean, he knew how big of a moment it was for Kirk Gibson that day to essentially no business playing, couldn't play, to hit the home run right there. And he made it was about Kirk Gibson. It was about the Dodgers. It was about what a cool moment it was. It wasn't about Vin Scully. And by doing that as consistently as he did it, he made it such an enjoyable listen. You felt if you were just driving down the road listening to a Dodgers game, he was able, and not many people can do this. It's one of the things at the end of every Cubs season, whether the Cubs are good or bad, and most of the time they're bad, I get a little choked up. I always listen to the last game, always.
Okay.
Because I love Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer. Because Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer are one of the rare broadcast booths that can make you feel driving down the road like you're in the booth with them. And you guys are just watching the game. And Scully could do that without a partner. He could make it feel like you were sitting there with him at Dodger Stadium just watching the game. And he was telling you stories. And it was like, as he got older, it was like going to the game with your grandfather. And it was really cool. And it was enjoy. You'd look up and you're like, they're in the 7th inning and I couldn't care less and I'm listening. I don't want the game to end. And there aren't many broadcast crews that can do that. Like, I'll give you an example, not picking on them, but I was listening last night driving back to Yankees Mariners. I like listening to baseball.
Yeah.
And that broadcast is difficult to listen to. And it's legendary voices, and I don't really get into it much.
No, there's very few where you will just turn it on and go, I'm going to listen to that guy. I'm just listening to him. I don't like whatever. Yeah, you're spending 3 hours. You know, everybody has their dudes because baseball on the radio is a completely different animal than anything else in the world because the number of games, the ability to kind of grow up with these guys. I mean, they're your thing.
Yeah, and if you listen to a basketball game, for example, there's not a lot of opportunity to tell stories.
No,
because it's up and down, up and down, up and down. You know, and a football game has a kind of a cadence and a rhythm to it. But a baseball game, a baseball broadcast, one game could be completely different than the other. You know, you might have Greg Maddux throwing a 3-hit shutout in a game that goes 2 hours and 15 minutes, or you might have a game where Steve Traxel starts and it's 47 seconds between every pitch, and the game's 4 hours and it just drags. And if you're not a good broadcaster, that's a tough broadcast. But Vin Scully would take that and use a game like that as just kind of a canvas to paint his story. And yet you'd never really think that he was making it about him.
And it has to be so natural and just who you are, because if you even for a tinker try to fake that or be that kind of person, it comes off so flat and so terrible that it doesn't even start to work.
Yeah.
You can't just become become that guy. You are that guy or you are not that has the ability to do that, because frankly, you got to earn people's trust to even tell the stories as an announcer. I mean, somebody brand new comes in, hey, let me tell you, man, okay, fine, whatever, shut up. Like,
well, you go listen to, you posted it, I think, on the board. You listen to the way that he broadcasts for love of the game. All right? It makes you think that he's really there on a Saturday afternoon at Yankee Stadium watching this veteran pitcher,
the twilight of his career,
throw up the way that he does it was just so, it felt like you were really watching a game. You think Billy Chappell is trying to throw a perfect game with all of this stuff going on, and it's a sappy love story where the boy gets the girl at the end, but just barely. After he breaks his heart, he breaks her heart, and they end up together when you think it's just not going to happen. It's just not in the cards. And they weave in all of these other things, but what makes that movie good is Scully.
It's in its own way, it's a time capsule because you've got Scully and Augie Garrido both just hanging out.
Yeah,
there in that movie.
Like, they didn't need Steve Lyons in that movie.
Oh no, they could have just stuck with him.
And he was fine.
He's Steve Lyons,
but you could throw him out. You could change nothing, but just let Scully tell stories. And I think Vin Scully could have started telling Billy Chappell stories, and we would have been like, "Oh wow, Vin knew Billy." And you would just listen.
But in a way, it's an Easter egg because they don't really point out that, hey, there's this famous broadcaster doing the movie or the whatever. You have to kind of know that, but then when you know it, you go, "Oh, that's
so for
cool."
The person who's not a baseball
that's
fan,
what I'm saying,
who watches the movie, they don't even notice.
Yeah, the rom-com watcher that comes in and goes, "I'm just watching Kevin Costner and Kelly Preston and
try
doing
to figure
the deal.
This out." And gosh, I hope they end up together.
Yeah, they're not hearing the announcer going, "Oh my God, that's Vin Scully."
Yeah, I mean, I kept waiting. You know, you go back and you look at it, you're like, they kind of missed an opportunity for Vin to get rid of Steve and let Vin tell some of the stories. You know, I was down in Lakeland a few years ago after Billy had the sawing accident with his right hand. He couldn't feel the ball. And, you know, I mean,
sure,
going back, that's probably how they should have done it. I don't know. Just for whatever reason, though, and I guess it's the ultimate testament to a person. I've never met Vin Scully. I don't know that I've ever been in the same place with Vin Scully.
Sure.
I would have loved to have met Vin Scully. Never met him. And his passing at the age of 94. 94 is a pretty full life.
Yeah.
Choked up a complete stranger. I mean, I literally started crying. I feel choked up right now about that. That's a loss. There's a void there.
No, in so many different ways. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I hope there are archives upon archives. I hope that somebody has those documents, those stories, all those things. I would assume
Well,
he's been retired for 6 years now.
You would hope that somebody has sat down with him and said, "Hey, Vin, let's just tell stories.
Let's do it all. Here,
Let's tell
I'll
stories.
leave the tape on as long as we can leave the tape on." Because, I mean, it's and there's that person for everything. But that was baseball's person. I mean, look, I mean, again, there's not even a comparison, and he would laugh and admit that too. But, I mean, even from a, archive standpoint, like David Kellum keeps all of his scorebooks from 1977 on. He's been doing Ole Miss baseball for 40 whatever years, and the project I'm working on, I needed something, and I said, "Hey, you have this?" And within 10 minutes, here's the picture, here's this, here's this, here's this. Like, he'd sent me the score, his scorebook, and the official lineup cards for all the College World Series games. Like, it's, I was writing a story on Ole Miss's last win in Baton Rouge prior to 19 for a series in 82. And I said, "Hey, who was on that team?" And then in 10 minutes, here's literally play-by-play and the entire thing. Well, radio announcers are really who has those things. They're the only humans that have those type of things. So when they go, if you don't find a way to compile, there is so much lost about any program, any team, any franchise, anything that's out there in the world.
To your point, I know we got to get to football in a second. I promise we will. It's going to be a long season. We'll talk a lot of football.
Yeah, I'm actually not even that worried about football today.
Pat Hughes' scorecard from Game 7 of the 2016 World Series, he, like the great baseball people, like you mentioned, DK, he keeps all of the scorecards just because he did the game and he keeps them. And someone asked if they could see a copy of it. And he was like, "Yeah." And all of a sudden it's selling like hotcakes. People just want it as a thing. Well, it's just a scorecard.
Yeah, sure.
But it was Pat Hughes's, and it shows all of his notes and his thoughts and his things to remind himself to say.
Yeah, I mean.
Just to that point, if you're a Cubs fan and you listen to Pat Hughes all the time and you see that, like, I mean, I've listened to Pat Hughes through a bunch of losses, like a bunch of games where this sucks. And yet you feel like you're sort of commiserating with him. At first it was with Ron Santo, and now it's with Ron Coomer, and you kind of mark time that way with guys like that. So, yeah, for a Dodgers fan, they've had time because it's been years, but today's a sad day. Yeah, for sure.
Podcast brought to you in part by Prime Shrimp, primeshrimp.com. 5 different flavors to go straight from bag in your freezer to plate in less than 10 minutes. Just pop in boiling water, and you get restaurant-quality shrimp ready to go for you. It's a great thing for kids back in school, need some quick dinners, everything from the signature blend to the spicy Louisiana boil to French Quarter Alfredo, garlic, herb, butter, and more. And let me tell you about the new item they have, which is the individually frozen shrimp, just like the grocery stores would have, except better, higher quality from the New Orleans-based company. MPW is the code to get $20 off your first order. That's primeshrimp.com.
ACS is owned by my friend Clay McNutt in Baldwin, Mississippi. It's a complete electrical control system solution provider, a Rockwell Automation recognized system integrator. They've got a full-time dedicated emergency service and troubleshooting staff, a UL 508A panel shop. They can custom tailor software packages, custom design electrical control panel solutions, and much, much more. It's acsllcms.com or call 662-601-4381. We're brought to you by Lamons Fine Jewelry. Lamons 1126 North Lamar Boulevard in Oxford. They've been serving the Oxford area for about 3/4 of a century. Engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewelry, watches, pearls, fashion jewelry, children's jewelry, collectibles, and more. Gold standard in fine jewelry. Visit them at lamonsfinejewelry.com or call them at 662-234-2777. We'll have a hand-raised guys tomorrow night. It's brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. They also sponsor the Troy Brown Show, which is up at MPW Digital. It's also up in podcast form. So if you want to listen to it, you can. If you want to watch it, you can. It's up to you. Different names, same great products and services, Comer and Southern. If you live in Oxford, Tupelo, or the surrounding area, call Comer, 662-801-1777. If you live in Hernando, Memphis, or the surrounding area, call Southern, 662-429-4429. College Corner's your one-stop Rebel Shop, 2 locations in the Jackson area. In Ridgeland, it's next to Fleet Feet. In Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's okay. Go to collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. collegecornerstore.com. We're also brought to you by Pinnacle. Martin Palomo and I will tape a Mind on My Money tomorrow. That's brought to you by Pinnacle. They've got clients in more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states. They sit down with you and they listen to your goals, study your expenses, put forth a comprehensive, detailed, and financial plan built just for you. It's mypinwealth.com, MYPINN wealth.com. I was telling you yesterday about John Edwards, his golf trip that he had to England. They went out to St. Andrews. They watched the Open Championship. They played 4 courses, including 3 that are on the Open rotation. Then they went over to Paris for a few days, visited the beaches of Normandy, and did some champagne tours. So he arranges trips like that, trips that you'll remember for a lifetime. Get in touch with him, give him some parameters, give him a budget, and he'll give you options you're not going to come up with on your own. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net.
Podcast also brought to you by Northeast Spark, NESPARC, service people across rural communities. 2 packages, the Ignite, the 100 Mbps, or the Blaze, the 1 gig that powers the Clark Ford Studio, your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband. That's nespark.com, 662-238-3159, phone service, parental controls, and much more. So again, get the best internet in Lafayette County. That's 662-238-3159. You know, the other thing, too, kind of closing that, is I was seeing several different reporters talk about that, whether it be, I guess before the game mostly, radio broadcast booths sort of become the congregating spot for a lot of people, a lot of production, whatever. And Scully was always there incredibly early, and he was just kind of hanging out. He was well prepared, so he was willing to talk. The resource that he was for reporters was probably immeasurable. That would be changing once he's gone, that you no longer have that, hey, what about this? And you get this, not only an answer, but a quote or whatever, and you can really delve into whatever topic it is you're trying to talk about at that point, I would assume. So
I always heard that he was very open to young beat writers too.
Really?
Which is, that's not.
It's contrary to.
I've told this story when I was breaking into the Auburn beat. I didn't know much about Auburn. You know what I mean? I really didn't. I mean, I knew of Auburn because I grew up an Alabama fan. So Auburn, but I didn't live in Alabama. I didn't know the landscape, and I'd seen Auburn play. I'd been to Jordan-Hare, but I didn't know Auburn. And Jim Fife would just, for whatever reason, maybe because sometimes I'd just go sit down and have a drink with him, but he would tell me all this stuff. And
who was this?
He was the legendary voice of Auburn for a long time. Yeah. And Jim would sit down with me and just tell me stories. And it was like such a resource, because after like 1 year, I felt far more ingrained, not in the Auburn culture or whatnot, but I knew more. I was able to color my stories differently. I had more perspective on, okay, what did this mean for the program? Historically, where does this rank? Like, I could go ask, like, hey, when was the last time they won a game this big? Or when was the last time they were this good? And he'd start telling me stories about, Chuck Person. And he was, stuff like that, where you kind of felt comforted. Like, I'm not having to, because you don't want to have to Google everything. I mean, you want to be able to give something in your content that feels authentic. And I've been around radio people that weren't going to give you any time. No.
Well, and that's kind of your best resource, because they are at least more likely than your fellow scribes. You're definitely not going to get a lot of typically help or attention or whatever from.
I mean, the older guys aren't going to be, hey, young buck,
come on over here and have a drink. Let me fill you in on the entire thing.
Let me tell you everything that I've learned in 30 years. No,
that's not really.
No, it's, hey, young buck, I'm going to kick your ass today.
I've tried to at least be a little nicer as I've gotten older. Like, I'm really bad about just completely minding my own business, and I'm at least trying to, the DM writers or whatever, at least say hello sometimes. I'm making a concerted effort to not be a complete jerk most of the time, because I don't do it on purpose, but especially with baseball, it's so many games, you're just kind of whatever. And I've got AirPods in, I'm minding my own business, and kind of a curmudgeon about where I sit, and I'm just sort of whatever. And then I'm go, I'm being a jerk. Like, just calm down for a minute.
Well, like at football today, I'm going to walk around and try to take some notes and try to learn a little bit. And sometimes you look over and the writers are just congregated in a huddle and they're just talking. And I'm like, I can't write about this practice if I don't watch it.
Can't multitask.
Because I don't, and especially with the transfer portal and all this stuff, like I don't know everybody's number yet.
That's true.
Like there's going to be a lot of cross sourcing with, okay, now who's that? Who's that? I mean, it has changed. Like I think you got to pay more attention, at least early.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, all right. Let's see. What do you want to do? You want to
but I think I sufficiently have such a bad reputation among like young writers that I don't think I have to worry about it. I don't think they're gonna.
I mean, it's not like something, but I just like
they're not gonna come approach me because they're like, that guy's an asshole.
Well, like you will. I mean, you are still competing a little bit too. Like I'll have some times where somebody's like, "Hey, when's the last time?" I'm like, I don't really want to tell you. I mean, I know, but don't really want to just.
You got Google.com.
Or a lot of times I'll spend like 25 minutes looking something up, and then somebody will be like, "So what was that?" I'm like,
"Yeah, I'm not going to give it to you.
Here's the media guide. Have at it."
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I mean. Because we kind of I have an understanding with Suss because he looks up so much stuff. We'll pair off everything together, and it's going to end up about even at the end of the year. But then, like the guy who never looks anything, I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why am I giving that?
Why am I helping you? Yeah. You're not helping me.
So yeah,
it's the back scratching thing.
Yeah.
If someone goes, "Hey, scratch my back," and you do,
okay,
fine. But the time is, "Hey, I got this one little spot right there," and he's like, "No, I don't do that." Okay, well then we're done. I mean, so it's all good. Yeah. No big deal.
Oh gosh, Juan Soto was dealt to the San Diego Padres, who have gone all in. They are making a run at it. They pick up Soto, Josh Bell, Josh Hader, Brandon Drury. They definitely lead the list of teams at the deadline there. So
the Padres farm director today, he just looks around and goes, "Anybody here?"
Yeah, it's the Will Smith gif where he's just in the room by himself, looking around. Like, that's it. All gone. The strangest thing of the day, and I'm not saying like they weren't going to win a title or anything. There was no reason to make some huge moves. But the Rockies, who did nothing, and then when asked about it, their GM or whomever, his quote was, "Well, right before the deadline, we gave a guy a long-term extension, and we were the only team to do that." It's like, well,
the Padres did that with Joe Musgrove
and Austin Riley.
With the Braves.
It's like no, and B, and so you kept one of your own players longer. Like, how is that? Like, how is that the thing we're going to hang our hat on as we move forward? Like, I don't get it. The Angels don't move Ohtani.
No. They got to really think for a minute before they got to really think about what they want to do there. That's not to get down a big baseball rabbit hole too much, but that's the team. That is the team that has the most soul searching to do. They're kind of a jinxed franchise, the Angels. I've been listening to Tom Rinaldi's podcast series, Wesley, about the murder of Lyman Bostock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it good?
It is. I know a lot about the story because for whatever reason, I've gone down that rabbit hole a bunch.
We've talked about that over time. Yeah.
I knew about it. But, like, they were a strike away from going to the World Series. Was that in 85? And then Dave Henderson hit the home run off Donnie Moore, who never got over it, ultimately committed suicide.
Because of that?
In at least partially. Yeah. Just a year ago, Tyler Skaggs died. The fentanyl overdose. Turns out that his supplier was an organization staffer who's going to prison. Just a lot's gone on. And here you have this generational talent who also has this sort of generational personality. There's a language barrier that interrupts that to some degree. But Ohtani's this good-looking young man with, a $1 million smile and incredible talent, and he's probably going to command $600 million on the open market. And what do? Do you ride him one more year, or do you try to rebuild your franchise around a return for him that probably has now been established by this Padres trade? I don't know the answer to that.
What you would hope if you were baseball, always would close that subject, was that it made it more interesting, and I don't know that it did. I don't know that anything happened that makes it more likely to watch moving forward to the second half of the season. There was no move where I went, wow. Okay.
No, we did set up, though, with some playoff series that could be like you would watch.
We know we want Astros-Yankees.
Yeah, but in the National League now, there's 4 teams that are really interesting. I think the Braves are really good. The Mets are really interesting.
They are.
The Dodgers are, of course, the Dodgers. And now the Padres are this interesting team. I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto, Manny Machado in the same lineup. They went out and got a closer in Hader. Got a Padres, Dodgers, NLCS, you're in.
And it's one of those where in the playoffs you're fine. In the regular season, because it's on the West Coast, you're going to be like,
yeah.
But you've got to kind of wait on it to get here.
Yeah, from a baseball standpoint, but a regular season standpoint, yesterday was awful. You took another star and put him out on the West Coast.
Padres currently 11.5 back of the Dodgers. So we're talking about having to win a wild card game to even matter.
Is it a wild card game or a series now?
Oh, is it a series now?
It's a series, right?
Okay.
It's a 3-game set.
So better. But still, point being,
yeah, sure.
You're still having to win your way into the main tournament.
And all they have with Soto is they have the rest of this year and then 2 years.
And you're probably playing the freaking Braves or the Mets. I mean, this isn't some easy path here.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it's Braves, Mets, Brewers.
I mean,
somebody
saddle
like that.
up.
I mean, yeah, you're going to hands will be full for sure.
Yeah, I mean, wild card right now, the Braves have they're pretty safe. They're 7.5 up, and the Padres are 3.5 up. Phillies and Cardinals also at that next spot. So anyway, hold on, had something. Where is it? So the Miami Dolphins, they hit with tampering penalties that frankly led to completely nothing. So kind of dumb and whatever on their form of their administration yesterday. The Dolphins are forfeiting their first round selection in the 2023 draft and their third round selection in 2024 after the league said that they made impermissible contact with Tom Brady while he was with the Patriots and the Buccaneers, as well as impermissible contact with Sean Payton's agent while he was still with the Saints. So 2 draft pick losses there for the Dolphins, including their first round pick. Tom Brady nor Sean Payton are on the Miami roster, so that was kind of stupid in hindsight. Looking back,
what's Payton doing this year?
Just kind of hanging out, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Miami owner Stephen Ross is fined $1.5 million, which for him is really not a big deal, and even a dumber penalty that means nothing to an owner as he's suspended through October 17th. I don't even know what that means. He can't attend any league meetings. He's probably very happy about that, actually. Yeah. Thank you. I don't have to get on a plane and fly somewhere to listen to you guys talk for 3 days. Brady nor Payton will be sanctioned in any way, by the way. Tampering is not a two-way street, as the Athletic says. You can do whatever and be fine there. They did also find the Dolphins did not intentionally tank in 2019. Former coach Brian Flores had claimed earlier this year that Ross had offered him $100,000 per loss. A, how do you prove that? And B, frankly, paying him $100,000 per loss would be good business sense because you needed early picks. That was one I never could even make myself care about in any capacity because isn't the point to lose at that point?
Yeah,
I get that maybe you can't do the extra whatever, but why not? I don't understand. I know the NFL takes tanking way more seriously than other leagues, but
does it?
Well,
I mean, it does. Like, you can't tank the way that an NBA team tanks, right? Where it's like, hey, the whole starting lineup, everybody's got an ankle. No one's playing. We're shutting it down. That doesn't happen, but if you've got a super young team, usually you're not winning.
Well, that's true. I mean, the Jags did everything, but I mean, they tried as hard as they could to tank.
They lost organically.
Well, a couple of years ago, was it Jacksonville who lost the game literally intentionally, like the play call or whatever, where it was like, "Oh God, no, stop! We're going to win this game."
Was that Jets?
Was it Jets?
I can't.
It was Jags or Jets. I feel like they were playing the Raiders.
Yeah,
and like they just quit. Like it was like, nope,
don't score.
Yeah, no, that's not okay.
I guess maybe because I watch so much NBA, tanking doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about it. Like the goal is the worst thing you can be is the middle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like you don't want to sign a couple of guys that are going to move you closer to the middle. That's not good. You want to get past the middle, or you want to stay at the bottom where you can get the next Joe Burrow.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you've got people looking at Stroud and Bryce Young this year as like a lot of people saying, hey, these are franchise quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Will Levis. I don't know. We'll see. But, you know, you're not going to get one of those guys drafting 14th.
No. So at some point you have a decision to make. However you got to get there. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, the worst thing you can be is average. If you're perpetually average and you're always drafting 15, 16, 17, well, you're probably going to stay there.
It's the team version of having the quarterback that's ranked 10th to 16th because you go, well, maybe. No,
yeah.
Not really. Actually,
he's not terrible. He's going to win us 7 games, 8 games, 9 games. We might even make the playoffs. Hell, we might win a wild card game. That's as far as we're going. I mean, that's not a great place to be unless from a franchise standpoint you go, hey, this is good. We're filling up our stadium and it's fine. But if your goal is to win a championship, at some point you've got a tanking decision to make. And the organizations that never have to tank, those are the elite organizations. And there aren't many of them. New England. Now you look at that and go, well, they did have Tom Brady for 15 years. That was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not many. I mean, Pittsburgh's this elite organization, and it looks like they're going to go through a downturn here. Green Bay is one of the storied franchises in the NFL. They've been bad before.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the multi-year tanking where you don't try that is what is so bad for the sport. That's the one where you're like, hey, I mean, at some point, this is where a lot of teams are at times where, hey, you got to at least kind of care a little bit. So, podcast brought to you in part by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting and understand your market. Leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
Opa is Oxford's newest restaurant on the square. Gyros, wraps, kebabs, redfish, lamb chops, and more. Handcrafted cocktails, frozen libations, an amazing candlelit patio south of the Square Courthouse, 306 South Lamar in Oxford. I've got a mailbag up. It's brought to you by Whitney McNutt of Tommy Morgan Incorporated Realtors, serving you for all of your real estate needs in Oxford and Tupelo. Condos, land, commercial, residential, family homes, 662-567-2573. 662-842-3844. Service specialist staffing and recruiting agencies been connecting great job opportunities to candidates since 1967. If you're on the job hunt, they can help you. If you are a company that's looking to hire quality, hard-to-find talent, they can help you as well. Keep in mind that payment of service is solely contingent on if your company decides to hire a candidate that they send. It's always free for the candidate. So you've got nothing to lose. Give Will, Sydney, or Kelsey a call. 662-832-5138 or check out their new and improved website, servicespecialistltd.com. The Mason Brooks Show is up on in our podcast network. It's also up on our YouTube channel. It's brought to you by The Rogue. It's your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylists hand select pieces from top designers, from work to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone at The Rogue. All the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, and more. 4450 I-55 North in Jackson or therogue.com. And don't just accept what you see, but imagine something new. Step forward, chase after a better version of yourself. Every day, Corinth Dental is helping people reinvent themselves one smile at a time. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile. using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures, including Invisalign. These clear aligners are the virtually invisible way to improve your smile. So call Corinth Dental today, and they'll give you a no-cost digital scan of your teeth and let them show you the way to a straighter, healthier smile. 12 months, no interest, no down payment financing, available at corinthdental.com. And we're brought to you by Southern Traditions Farm, 68 acres, 32 stalls, an upscale equestrian training and boarding facility in Canton, Mississippi. 2 sand rings, grass ring, miles of wooded trails. It's also a great place to host parties and events. So get in touch with the Craddocks or with Bowers Cone or Susan Walt there at Southern Traditions Farm on Facebook or Instagram at Southern Traditions Farm. Yeah, they're talking in the thread about Victor Wembanyama and Nick Smith Jr. and some of those guys that are going to be in this next draft. It's a deep draft, but it's like 6 to 8 potential impact guys. So finishing 12th does you no good.
No man's land. You're killing yourself by doing that, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Thunder or the Rockets, the Magic, there's no reason to win next year. You'd like to lose. I mean, listen, there's potentially the next great NBA player in the draft, Victor Wembanyama. I don't know that Smith, the guard at Arkansas, is that guy, but now he's an impact guy. 6'4" and a half guard, can play both the point and off. I don't know that he's the super explosive guy that's going to end up setting the NBA on fire, but if you told me he was a multi-time All-Star, absolutely, I buy it. To get those guys, you've got to tank. Bottom line.
Is Ole Miss starting before everybody else? Or is everybody else kind of going?
A lot of teams aren't starting until Friday.
That's what I thought.
I'm a little – I talked to Chris Lee yesterday. Vanderbilt started last week because they play a week 0 game. I'm guessing that Ole Miss is starting a little early because Lane is building in more rest days. You're only allowed a certain number of practices.
Yeah. That's what you're building off of.
I mean, so my guess is that he's building in more off days than others. And those off days, is my understanding, that those legitimately have to be, you can't come to the building unless you're there for medical reasons.
Oh, really?
On the off days. You can't even meet on off days.
Trying to avoid that, kind of only sort of practice thing. That'll get policed well.
Yeah.
Get popped at all.
Yeah.
No, all good.
That's going to be like the 25 mile per hour speed limit. You can go 35. Probably can't go 85 right there, but yeah, that speed limit's not getting fully obeyed. Something tells me some people will meet.
So Saturday's practice, that's still not full pads, right? That's shoulder pads only, right? That's their first day they can be in shoulder pads, right?
Saturday will be the second day in shoulder pads. If I'm reading the schedule correctly, do they practice Sunday and we just don't have access?
I have no idea.
Because I've been working on, which one of us is going to cover which day. So I don't have the whole thing in front of me. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, technically the first day they could go full pads is Sunday.
Okay. Gotcha.
You have to do 2 days in shorts, 2 days in shells, and then you can go to pads.
Right. And obviously you're not padding every day or anything. They're not going to kill somebody. So
no. You'll see a lot of practices. You'll see them ramp up in pads for a while, and then they'll start to ramp down in shells, and the practices, frankly, don't look that much different. Part of being a good football team is understanding how to practice. You go to an NFL practice, you watch a smart practice.
Yeah, it's efficient.
And they hit, but they're protecting each other. You don't see that a lot of careless, thrown to the ground crap.
ESPN Plus did a thing on the number 1 overall pick predictions for 2023 in the NFL draft. Just quickly here, they give Bryce Young a 20% chance of being the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
They give C.J. Stroud a 20% chance of being the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
Give Will Anderson a 20% chance of being the number 1 overall pick.
All right, that leaves 40%.
Could you see an edge? Could you actually see him going number 1?
Anderson?
Yeah.
Hell
for the right team. Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's so good.
Kind of ties into something we will continue to talk about and you've been talking about They give 10% to Will Levis.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. The first time that I heard the Levis thing, before I scoffed, I called a couple of NFL people that I knew. And they all said the same thing. He's so all over our radar.
Mm-hmm.
We love everything about him so far. We're looking for reasons to not love him. Kentucky is like on my list of really interesting teams this year. They're number one.
Yeah. Ole
Ole Miss might be number two. South Carolina's right there. We all know Alabama and Georgia are loaded. Loaded. They're great teams. This might be a historically good Alabama team. That's not particularly interesting. I don't buy the A&M stuff in bulk. So Alabama and Georgia, you're looking for who's third, who's fourth. I'm really interested in Kentucky because, like Ryan Brown said on this network,
mm-hmm.
if Will Levis is number one overall good, and if he's not, he's not, right? But if he is, Chase, tell me why Kentucky's not a contender. Tell me why Kentucky's a pushover. Don't give me, they have this blue K on there. Stop. No, why? If they have a number one quarterback,
yeah,
they've got Rodriguez in the backfield. They've got an experienced line. They've got some targets at receiver. They're pretty good up front on defense. Pretty solid overall. They've got a culture. The coach has been there for 100 years. If Will Levis is special good, tell me why they're not a contender. Give me a reason other than, they're Kentucky.
And Levis being included makes for good pod. It makes for good content. It gives us a couple months of talking about prior to Kentucky. The reason why it is whatever is the next name on the list. They give a 10% chance to one Anthony Richardson. He is the next option on the board.
I'll see you later.
I mean, I had to circle the one player to whom scouts will have their eyes glued this season would be Richardson. With off-the-charts physical traits, the ball explodes out of the 6'4" signal caller's hand. Despite having a bit of a loopy release, he has the arm strength to compensate. He rotated back and forth with Emory Jones. Yeah, that's a sign of a hell of a quarterback.
That's also a sign of a bad coaching job last year.
It is. At 240, Richardson is impressive frame that he uses well as both a runner and passer. NFL scouts just haven't seen much of him yet as he attempted only 58 passes and ran the ball 66 times. The big-time throws and electrifying runs from last season, however, have evaluators excited. He sucked. He was bad. I mean,
all right, so that's 80%.
Because they say if he's able to be consistent over the long haul, well, sure, but he can't. That's the whole purpose.
So that's 80%. That covers 5 guys get 80%.
He just has to improve his processing ability, accuracy, and overall decision-making.
Sure.
That is a line in the story.
It.
Oh, well, hell. Oh, good then.
Yeah. I mean,
we got a great quarterback. He's got to stop throwing interceptions and make better decisions. And
if I lose 15 pounds and grow a full head of hair, I'm headed to Hollywood.
10% to Peter Skoronsky. Can you name a position or a team for Mr. Peter Skoronsky?
I'm going to guess he's an offensive guard at Wisconsin.
Not far off. Offensive tackle at Northwestern.
There you go. Stereotypes exist for a reason.
A Big Ten offensive lineman for $100, Alex. 3% to Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback at Miami.
See, I'd give him a higher chance than that.
3% Paris Johnson Jr., an offensive tackle at Ohio State.
Okay.
And then 2% Tyree Wilson, an edge from Texas Tech. And then 1% defensive tackle Georgia, Jalen Carter.
All right.
And a quarterback at Stanford, Tanner McKee, with 1%. So
Sure.
Anthony Richardson is the biggest woe on the list.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I mean, it's probably coming from that main group. It's why they have 60% of the vote. But
but I'll tell you this: when I talked to some NFL people, they talked about Levis in that same category with Young and Stroud. Like there are things about Bryce Young's game that the NFL wants to see improve. There are things about Stroud's game they want to see improve. I mean, these are not finished products. Though I go back and I watch Bryce Young in the fourth quarter of that Auburn game last year. Phew.
Sure.
That was impressive.
Sure.
His receivers were hurt. His line was getting beat. And he's just making plays.
Yeah. Look,
But Levis is interesting. Spencer Rattler at South Carolina is interesting.
I am very interested in him.
Yes.
That's fair.
Because they won 7 games last year with a GA.
That's true.
So what happens if Spencer Rattler finds himself with a coach that he's familiar with? Are they interesting? I mean, they play at Arkansas week 2. What if they win that game?
Yeah.
Do we go, Arkansas is kind of interesting because everyone's looking.
Frankly, there are very few teams. The only teams in the SEC that I can't find some interest to is Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. And even Georgia has a little bit where I'm like,
Missouri.
Okay, they're boring as hell.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Everybody else, I can at least come up with something.
Oh, yeah, like LSU, that LSU Mississippi State game, and like early in week 3, I think I'm locked in.
Yeah,
I'm curious as hell.
That's what I'm saying. Like, first week of October, and I don't know when anybody plays or even if they do play, but like if Carolina plays Arkansas, I go, oh, I'm okay.
Well, that's the second week of the season.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I mean, October 1st, if Ole Miss is 4-0 and Kentucky's 4-0,
okay,
I don't know what to expect. I'm just sitting there going,
sure, yeah.
I mean, sign me up.
Yeah.
It's like the game that everybody keeps talking about is like this A&M game at Alabama, and I'm like, listen, you guys are hyping something up that might be 24-0 at the end of 1.
Yeah, I know. Last thing, back on the baseball train just quickly for anybody, because I know we have a lot of Braves fans, and inside the division, it was potentially big news yesterday. Jacob deGrom had his first start in more than a year. He was very good in 5 innings. The bullpen fell apart and they lost the game, but that was not the point. He looked absolutely on point. He was 46 of 59 pitches for strikes, threw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball on his first meaningful pitch since July 27, 2021.
You know the rumor on DeGrom, right?
What's that?
That he wants to go to Atlanta.
Really? Well, his next start is against the Atlanta Braves, so we'll see that in 5 days.
Would you give Jacob deGrom a 3-year, $150 million contract?
Not my money, so sure.
Yeah.
But 3 years sounds about right. That year feels correct.
There's some people who cover the Cubs who are pretty
34.
Yeah, there's some people who cover the Cubs who are pretty dialed in that think that's going to be a name to watch this offseason, that the Cubs might go to him with a 2-year deal. AAV be damned.
Yeah, just here.
Yeah, $55 million a year. You want it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this lottery ticket because when he's on, he's the best pitcher in baseball.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, he was up to 102 on point last night. So
yeah,
Jacob
he's
deGrom.
A little injury prone.
Mm-hmm. He averaged 99.7 on 31 fastballs through 13 triple digits.
Where do you play, Stetson?
That was Chris. No, it's Florida. Yeah, I think you're right because Chris Sale was a Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking DeGrom played at Stetson.
Is that right?
I don't know. That for some reason that's sticking out in my lame little head.
He is from DeLand, Florida, so that would make sense.
Okay.
That is where they are, but I do not know that. So. All right, coverage again, rebelgrove.com. As today moves on, we'll have that, and then back with you again tomorrow. Again, getting started here in earnest as preseason camp is underway. So appreciate it. We will talk to you again very, very soon.